Hey, it's Steve Zautke with the Traction Reaction Podcast with some breaking news here with a big shakeup at Team Penske from the fallout with the controversy that came in the final day of qualifying with the disqualifications. And we're going to be talking more about that in a moment. But this morning they announced that Tim Cindric, team manager, has been with Team Penske since 1999, gone. Many thought he would be the kind of the heir apparent to Team Penske, would take over the racing activities of Penske eventually when that day would come. Also released was Ron Rzeski, who was the team strategist, I believe, for Will Power, was also the technical director at one time for, I think he was the racing director at the time. And then we also have Kyle Moyer, very well known in IndyCar, started way back with Gary Bettenhausen, and also was the chief. I believe he should have been the chief mechanic with the ground effects Lightning chassis in the early 80s, like 1981, 82, that Gary Bettenhausen drove the blue cars with number 8 on it. That was Kyle Moyer, as a young chap, was the chief mechanic, if I recall correctly, for him. He's been with the company for, I believe, 11 years or so, or since 2011, I believe. So you got 3 guys that have been with Team Penske for a while. And basically the top 3 guys at Team Penske when it comes to their IndyCar division. So it's going to lead quite a void. Now, Penske has worked on and has a very strong bench. But I mean, that's a pretty big hit. But this is something that had to be done. And this is one of the issues when Roger Penske took over IndyCar. And I always thought there should have been a little more separation than there is. Now, he stepped away from calling strategies on one of the cars, but I thought there should have been a little bit more of a separation, because now you got a team that's been accused twice in the last 2 years of cheating, and he also, runs IndyCar. So it's not a good look, and that's probably one of the reasons why he went with the decision this morning to release Kyle, Tim Cindric, and Ron Rzeski. So it's a very complicated situation, made complicated by Penske owning the series and also having a team in the series, and you need that separation. There's been some people, what happens with Austin Cindric. Now, Austin Cindric, if his name was Austin Johnson, would he be driving for Team Penske? I don't know. Austin's a talented kid. But I thought to be honest, I thought he kind of underperformed. He's won the Daytona 500. He runs well at Talladega and Daytona. Doesn't run as strong on road courses as we thought, because he kind of came up with road racing. But these kids nowadays, so a lot of these young kids are coming in the Cup, and the road racing, the drivers in Cup racing, they're all pretty fast, and with the road racing now, the days of the road course ringers are getting very, very tough for those guys. But what happens to him? I was kind of thinking, to be honest, I wouldn't surprise me. It's not really fair for Austin Cindric, but I mean, I'm a big Josh Berry fan. I just think Josh Berry is one of the great stories in Cup racing, and I would love to, do you see Josh Berry in the 2 and Austin Cindric go to the 21 next year? I don't know. It's just speculation on my part, but we'll see what happens with Austin Cindric. But there's already that speculation going about. Penske, one of the things that came up, and I kind of like it, is who's getting screwed in this is Dale Coyne. So you got 2 cars that got disqualified. Now, those cars were illegal the first time when they qualified in the first round of qualifying. So shouldn't they be disqualified? They moved into the back of the field, but I'm thinking, what about the 51 car? They did everything, they did everything legal, and they got bumped, but they got bumped by 2 illegal cars. You could do something like they did in 1979 when they had 35 cars, and they did the same in 1997. They had 35 cars also. Why not start the 34? I just wonder, one has to wonder, was there a little, we'll take care of you, Dale. Don't worry about it. Because you got Jacob Abel. Yeah, that's a team in waiting. That's a lot of money. I just drove past their building in downtown Speedway off of Main Street. So you want to keep them happy. One wonders what happened behind the scenes with that. So big shakeup at Team Penske. And I think, like I said, this is the issue that you have. I think, and I think a lot of people would agree there needs to be a little more separation between Team Penske and also the Penske administration. And this is one of the reasons why, what happened last week during qualifying. Now, changes have been made. They basically axed the top 3 guys, and those guys will be going to different teams and will be, continue to be successful. And this also goes into regarding having a spec series where you're trying to find these minute little ways to gain speed. One of the things I remember going to Chip Ganassi's shop about 20 years ago, and how they clear coat the cars and make the cars paint. They painted a lot of the decals were painted and then clear coated over just to give them that little extra smoothness. And Penske does, and some other teams do the same thing, because you're trying to find these little minute to make those cars as slippery as possible, and that's what Penske was doing. I mean, it makes sense if you think about it, but it's against the rules. So they got pinched for it. But like I said, the team I really feel unfortunate for is the 51, Jacob Abel and Dale Coyne Racing. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll have more from Indianapolis on the Traction Reaction Podcast.